Blackface has become a hot topic over the past couple of weeks. Druski's satirical version of Erica Kirk sparked conversations about whiteface, and even more recently, a blackface photo of a Georgia state representative from my hometown has surfaced as he is just starting his campaign for re-election. So what a perfect conversation or topic for a podcast called Blacktivities that links history you probably never learned to the present. Let's dive deeper right now. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Lisa.
And KK's here too. And you're listening to Blacktivities,
A celebration of all things Black.
Black culture, Black history,
Black perspectives, and Black panache.
Celebrating our Blackness doesn't mean exclusion.
Everybody's invited, but you gotta come in and have a seat.
So let the Blacktivities begin. What's good, Blacktivities family? My name is Shannon, and I am one part of the triple threat of Black women that host this show. Lisa is not with us today, but we have the beautiful KK.
Hey, y'all.
So, KK, God pretty much gave us a alley-oop this week because the streets have been buzzing for the past several days about this blackface picture of the Georgia state representative.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say his name or his party, but you can look it up if you're curious. This person went to the same high school that Lisa and I attended, but we weren't there at the same time because he's about 5 years older than us, but he was known in the community and he played football. So it's been a big thing between the people in my hometown talking and discussing this.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you some background, several Facebook posts were made, and at first no names were mentioned at all. But the picture got posted in the comments, and then once the name and the photo came out, a second post got made with the photo, and they tagged the representative. And there was a back and forth conversation. There was an apology, and this all ended up in the news like yesterday. So the photo's one thing, but what really got my attention was the response and the back and forth. And I don't want anything taken out of context when we talk about that. So I'm going to read his response after the big facts, and we can talk about like what you think, KK, because you're removed from the community. So I'm curious to know like what you would have to say, having no like personal ties. And then we also got to talk about Druski and his skits, where people are trying to say that he should have some backlash on him for being in whiteface.
We're not canceling Druski, but go ahead.
First, I want to get into the big facts because I think this is what a lot of people are missing about blackface. The history of blackface in America is a story about appropriation, Jim Crow, legislation, exclusion, and control. However, blackface actually didn't start here in America. There were roots in medieval Europe where white performers were painting themselves dark, playing the villains and the demons on stage. And that kind of made a connection that dark skin was evil from the jump. But the version that scarred this country started in 1828 when a white actor named Thomas Dartmouth Rice. People called him Daddy Rice. He watched an elderly enslaved black man doing a little shuffle dance in a stable yard in Louisville, Kentucky. And Rice stole that man's moves. He bought his clothes, he smeared burnt cork on his face, and then he performed that dance on the stage. And he called the character Jim Crow. And he became one of the most profitable performance characters in American history. By the 1840s, that character had grown into a whole industry called minstrelsy, So these minstrel shows were variety performances where white men were painting their faces black, exaggerating facial features like their lips with red or white makeup, putting on these woolly wigs, and they're performing characters designed to make Black people look stupid, lazy, childlike, and unfit to be free. So the two main characters were Sambo, which was a happy, dim-witted slave who loved his master, and Zip Coon, a ridiculous Black man who wore fancy clothes and he used big words wrong, which was meant to mock any Black person who had the nerve to act educated or equal. There was also Mammy, an older, heavyset Black woman who existed only to love and serve white families. And we've talked about all these characters in detail on a previous episode of Blacktivities called Mandingos, Mammies, and Jezebels, which I've linked in the show note if you want to go back and listen after this one. But these weren't just jokes. They were the only images of Black people that most white Americans ever saw. And they were designed to convince an entire country that Black people didn't deserve freedom or equal treatment. By 1848, minstrelsy was the #1 form of entertainment in America. It wasn't a fringe thing, it was mainstream. Families brought their children. Churches held minstrel fundraisers. And they took these shows international too. Songs written for minstrel shows like Oh Susanna and Swanee River became American classics, still sung today. A side note on that. The current official state songs for Kentucky and Florida were written by the same songwriter who wrote those songs. Florida tried to make it right in 2008 and changed the song. When I looked up the lyrics, it mentioned darkies and still longing for the old plantation, but is still recognized as the official song along with the new one. But anyway, back to the lecture at hand. It wasn't just a theater thing. The name Jim Crow, from Rice's Blackface character, became a racial slur by the late 1830s. And by the 1880s, Southern states started passing laws enforcing racial segregation and calling them Jim Crow laws. So, a stolen dance from an enslaved man became the name of a system of basically legal apartheid that lasted nearly a century. Then came Hollywood and the 1915 film we've talked about before, directed by D.W. Griffith, called The Birth of a Nation. It was a 3-hour film that used white actors in blackface to portray Black men as criminals and predators, while glorifying the KKK as the heroes. They screened it at the White House, and within months, a man named William Simmons took 15 men up Stone Mountain in none other than the great state of Georgia, burned a 16-foot cross, and officially relaunched the Klan. So by the mid-1920s, the Klan had between 2 and 4 million members. What fueled one of the largest surges of white supremacist organizing in American history, you ask? Blackface. In 1927, the first movie ever made with synchronized sound was called The Jazz Singer, and it starred Al Jolson in blackface, singing a song called Mammy. So, the birth of talking pictures was literally announced by a white man in black paint. Throughout the 1930s and 40s, some of Hollywood's biggest names, Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney, Bing Crosby, Fred Astaire, Shirley Temple, all appeared in blackface in mainstream films. It was considered family entertainment. So here's why all this matters for today. Those minstrel stereotypes, the Sambo, the Mammy, the Coon, the Brute, didn't disappear when they stopped painting their faces. They shapeshifted. Scholars have documented how those same archetypes showed up in 20th century television in the roles Black actors were given and the roles they were denied, in how news cameras frame Black people and in the unconscious biases that research can still measure in children as young as preschool age. Blackface isn't just about satire, it's about using entertainment, law, and politics to demean and dehumanize an entire race of people. And that's big facts.
Woo, girl, that was good. We need some background on it, so that was very good. I'm not surprised about a few things. One thing's for certain, two things for sure. There's always going to be some theft in it. So the fact that the concept was stolen from someone is not surprising. Nor is it surprising that the same individuals who watched lynchings for entertainment saw this as entertainment. The same people who conducted state fairs that had Black children in them and people with disabilities and all sorts of things as a focal point. That is also not surprising. So none of that is surprising.
I actually learned more than I knew when I was researching for big facts. And then I also, as I was reading the information, started to make links between some of the things that we talk about on the show that involve Black culture, like the, well, you call them raccoon culture. Um,
Yeah, because God
ill.
forbid you use the actual word.
Black Hollywood actors and the early roles that they had to take, and how if they wanted success, they had to play these roles that characterized us in a certain way. It helps to understand the specific like stereotypes that are on us today and why they exist. Beauty standards with the way that the actors dressed and portrayed us, over sexualization of our young girls and fetishization. It also made me think about like why the world and people from other countries believe these stereotypes about us.
It was put out there.
Um,
The narrative was created.
yeah.
That's the propaganda. And that's what I really see happening in multiple ways. First of all, did Druski even say it was Erica Kirk? Looks like to me, Druski said, this is how conservative women behave. So I know nothing about Erica Kirk. Don't know why she felt like it was personal, a personal
A
attack
hit
on
dog will
her.
holler.
He said conservative women. So
Yeah.
there's that. A hit
Yep.
dog will holler for sure.
So I keep hearing people say, I'm not racist or whatever. I don't see color, all those things that people like to say. But if you think about it, like if minstrel shows were like some white people's only interaction with Black people or blackness, quote unquote, and this is what they actually thought about the us, it makes sense if you think about how our ancestors who were enslaved and raped, beat, families being separated, and how that can create trauma that's been passed down through generations, then it makes sense that some of these subconscious things could be passed through generations, and you may not consider yourself quote unquote racist because of the term, but you could have some bias, you could have some subconscious fears of Black people and certain beliefs that are within you.
Right.
And maybe that's why when people do these blackface things and they try to justify them by saying things like, I'm not racist or whatever, they're not considering that piece of it.
I agree. And I also think that when you use the term racist, most people's thoughts go directly to, well, I'm not burning a cross in front of your yard. I'm not
Yeah.
calling you the N-word. It goes right to that overt racism versus, those that are less overt than something like that. That's what people dealt with in the past. And now 2026, it just looks a little different. And had Druski been behaving in a way that was, obnoxious and well, some people think it was obnoxious, but if he was angry, and belligerent and all of that, then yes, please be angry. Please be belligerent, but don't mock your oppression. See what I'm saying? Be angry, be belligerent, but don't mock your oppression. Don't do that because that's an angle that has not been tapped into before. That's, people get mad at comedians because there's truth in comedy. There's always truth in jest. But for him to mock oppression and mock somebody who could be considered an oppressor, had he mentioned her, is just beyond, how do we approach that? Well, now I'm the victim. Now I gotta cry tears.
So whenever you look at the response to Druski, he's done the NASCAR skit and he's done this conservative woman skit. And they will say, well, if blackface isn't allowed, then why should whiteface be allowed? Isn't this racism? What do you say to that?
Well, what I say to it, well, didn't he show his white granddaddy?
He did.
That's all I gotta say. So he can fit into either world. A lot of biracial people usually identify as Black just because they know the world is going to see them that way. And there's also usually more acceptance on the Black side. So
Yeah.
there's that. And ideally, he would be able to navigate both worlds. I do know people who have biracial family members, and the white family loves them like crazy. And that's fine, but that's not always the case. And so he identifies how he identifies, but he also has the lineage that he has. And so he can navigate in both worlds. Since people think I'm Asian, maybe I should just do Asian face on the other side. I don't know. But I won't do that because that's hella disrespectful. And I certainly don't, but I'm just saying that if you come from that lineage, that's your background, and you navigate in both worlds, who can take that away? What card is that? What pass is that? So for somebody from that background, they can do it. The rest of the folks cannot.
So I actually looked up some facts because I wanted to be factual when I talk about whiteface. And I asked Claude to tell me about the history of whiteface. So basically, it said that whiteface was not the mirror image of blackface, that it is the funhouse mirror held up to it. There's not this deep history of using it to oppress people, using institutional power to do negative things to a race of people. But whiteface was used historically to basically combat blackface. Enslaved people would imitate their masters. It talked about how in TV and movies it's been used to mock the use of blackface and mock oppression. And so it's more of a form of resistance than it is racism towards a group of people. There was no power involved, there's no institutional structures involved. And so it's not the same.
So what I hear you saying is that because there is no power in it, that it is a form of resistance or complaint or venting,
Yeah.
um, then with that, it's not the mirror image simply because there's no power in it. I cannot put whiteface on and create a narrative about a group of people, a populace of people. I cannot do that. And I certainly can't do that because I don't have the access. Like I can't create a movie, a 3-hour movie and, talk about these things and shift the narrative from what it has been or what it is. That is what is being done on its own. The
Yeah.
whole colonization here, there, and everywhere, it doesn't take whiteface to create a narrative surrounding that. It just takes doing the things that are being done in order to create that narrative. But it certainly isn't coming from someone like Druski or someone who is just venting about it or, using it as a sign of resistance. Resistance doesn't create a narrative, it's just an outlet in that
Yeah.
sense.
And I found in the research and all the information that it gave me, it brought up an interesting quote that kind of piqued my attention about the movie White Chicks. And I can't
Yes.
remember if it was Marlon or Sean, but they were trying to say that same thing that, like, how could you do whiteface or whatever? And he was like, well, it really was like satire against black people because we were trying to show that the joke was about how black people act when white people are around. So I thought that was interesting.
That sounds like something Marlon would say because he's really good at interviews too. And yeah, it sounds like that would be Marlon,
Yeah.
possibly. But I also heard that they were talking about doing another one. I'm not sure if this is real. And maybe bringing Drewski in. I don't know. I think it would be a
That would
mess.
be hilarious. That would be hilarious. I like that movie, White Chicks. So we talked about the state representative, the politician in Georgia. He's currently in office. He's running again. I gave the background on the scenario. Someone posted the photo, tagged him, and then on Facebook, there was like a back and forth. This has been going on for the past 4 or 5 days, right? And so his initial response, I'm going to read it. So he said, as far as the legitimate photo, it shows me in a costume at a public bar as the power couple Kanye and Kim. I had photos in college where I painted myself blue and went as a smurf. I have videos in a wrestling singlet and wigs during COVID. In fact, I have a whole closet full of wigs and costumes. If you wanted to paint yourself orange and wear a come over wig, I think he meant comb over wig, and a blue suit and portray Donald Trump, I would not be offended at all. So that was the initial response. The second thing he said, because people were responding to his response in the comments, was I did go to a party in downtown Chattanooga for a friend's birthday as Kanye West. It was at a bar, and my wife and I were Kanye and Kim as a power couple. It was not some sort of white private party. I don't have a racist bone in my body. I don't care what color people are. Hope this helps shed some light on the situation. And then more comments came, and then he says, your comments are off based. There were plenty of black and brown people around when we were at a costume party. And then more comments. And then he says, there were no racist undertones. I was not a racist then, nor was I one when I spoke at Black Friend's funeral. when I allowed the Juneteenth celebration to use my venue for free, or when I voted for hate crime legislation both times. It was a power couple event, and my wife and I attended as Kanye and Kim. Turn it into whatever you want, but I can assure you racism was not it 12 years ago. Then he made it worse. He posts a picture of him with two black men, and it seems like these were like people that he works with, his employees. And
Mhm.
he said, "These two people," he named them, "disagree with you." And then there was more back and forth in the comments about how these two men are like family to him. And then yesterday, before it hit news, because
This is
now
still
in
going on.
in the papers, yeah, now it's in the papers and off Facebook. He posted the photo of him with the blackface on his Facebook and an apology. And it said, this was his apology. "Instead of responding to various posts on this photo, I figured it would be easier to just post a statement for clarity. I hate that this photo has been divided along political lines. I understand this is bigger than just politics. While America has a deep history confronting racial tensions, I never intended to make it worse. As a representative for all people in my district, I seek to understand their needs, interests, joys, and even their fears. It is my conviction that our community will be a better place when we all feel free to celebrate all of the cultures that are formed here. Kanye West definitely has some questionable views on public matters. He's
Uh,
still, no doubt, one of the greatest music performers of that generation. In my mind, I would think that this was how far we've come as a society. That if you respect someone, skin tone does not matter. That position missed the mark for many. For that, I apologize. Hindsight is 2020, and it was a poor decision. However, I do hope this country can get to a place where we don't take things so seriously. We breathe, and look how far we have come. We still have work to do, and that's why I'm here to do the hard work."
so that was a lot of back and forth. Um, and I don't know that you can't really understand the impact unless it's your story. And when it's not your story, that's when something just feels very flighty to you. It feels very not so important. I hope that that wasn't written for him and that those are his thoughts in terms of learning and growing and protecting his constituents. However, I feel like there's often a rush to when can we get past this? I've experienced that in government in particular, the whole notion of how and when can we just move past this? And it doesn't happen that way because you're not talking about something that it may seem like nothing, like you wash that whole thing off and then you just go about your life. But there are those who literally, we wear it every day. So for us, it's not a joking or laughing matter. And I think that's the difference. There is a weight that you carry that comes with this black skin. And so to be able to put it on and just wash it off and go about your merry way is there's a difference because there are those of us who live this life. We live this story. And it's no different from, how we always say, or not we, but Paul Mooney said, everybody want to be an N-word, but they don't want to be an N-word. That's the quote. And then, we had for a while those shirts that I love, about wanting our rhythm, but not our blues, because there's blues that come with it. There's a weight, there's a responsibility, there's a whole litany of things that people don't think about. And so it's just like we have artists, that think they can come and we call them black vacationers. You know, they can come and vacation as Black for a while, like we got Jack Harlow now. He doesn't wanna do rap, he wants to do R&B, and, you know, he wants to just vacation as Black until it's time to move on. We saw Post Malone do it, we saw Miley Cyrus do it, we saw Pink do it, we saw other artists come over, they vacation as Black, and then boom, it's time to go, you know,
I saw a
and
good clip on that.
yes.
I forgot the guy's name that used to be at
Jordan?
TMZ.
Oh, TMZ, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the black guy
Van
that used to be there.
Van
Yes,
Jones?
Van.
I love
And he
Van
was
Jones.
talking about that.
Mhm.
Um, and he said, he mentioned Travis Kelce. He mentioned some of those names you
Yes!
mentioned, but he
Travis
said,
Kelce
yeah, Travis
too.
Kelce, until he got the biggest come up from being white. So he went all the way white when he got with Taylor Swift.
Yep, just went full on white man. And it's fine, he has the right to do that. But there are a lot of people, and I used to say that back in the day, like, it's so easy for somebody to come over here. You could sag your pants, turn your hat around, do all the things. And, you know, when you get tired of it or when it no longer serves you, you're in a button down and some Dockers, you know, you can do that. We cannot, because that is something that follows us. A Black man in Dockers and a button down, and a white man in Dockers and a button down. The Black man still has the Black skin that he has to exist in. So that's why it is a different experience, and that's why it's viewed differently, and that's why it holds more weight when it's blackface.
Yeah, I did not think that the apology was sincere. I'm not convinced that he understands that he did anything wrong. For one, first, you tried to minimize it by talking about all these costumes and painting yourself blue, right? Then you tried to say, um, I don't have a racist bone in my body. That's like the one of the go-to phrases. Then
Look at my
you
Black
said,
friends.
yes. You said there were Black people around when I did this, and then you said, "Look at my Black friends," right? "Look at what I've done for the Black community. I spoke at my Black friend's funeral. I allowed the Juneteenth celebration to use my venue. I voted for hate crime legislation. Look at what I've done for Black people. I'm not racist. This can't be racist." And then when you got the backlash, then you wanna issue an apology, but it didn't seem like you still doesn't seem like he has a full understanding of what he did that was wrong.
Right.
And he tried to throw politics in there. It's
Mhm.
not a political issue. Racism and racist tropes have nothing to do with Democrat or Republican
Right.
thing.
It has everything to do with your humanity, how you show up, and your integrity as a human being. That's what it has to do with. It's not about red or blue.
Exactly. So I guess the saga continues on that because this was like the latest thing is his apology and then the news stories. I haven't read any of the news stories, but I've been seeing things scrolling,
I didn't
like
realize it was still
news
going
resources.
on.
Yeah,
I thought,
yeah.
I know you sent me something, but I was like, okay. But I did not realize it was still going on. Girl.
So we'll see what happens.
Yes. Keep
But
me posted.
people in the city where I grew up are big mad.
Yeah.
And of course, you got some people defending it and saying, "Oh, y'all are making such a big deal out of this."
Mhm.
And then posting the little pictures of Druski as the white conservative lady. It's all the same argument all the
Yeah.
time.
I don't do oppression Olympics. I'll just say it that way. I don't believe in or do oppression Olympics because I know who's really oppressed. I know the people who really struggle, and that's in the community that I work in every single day and try to help people in every. Those are oppressed people, not people who have huge platforms and access to endless amounts of money and wealth and power. Ain't nobody oppressed. I don't care if it's 3 of you. You you're not oppressed. Period. So that's that.
And people want to point to like a handful of examples of how we're no longer oppressed
Oh my
and
God.
racism doesn't exist.
Of course. Well, you know that's coming because remember, it's the opportunity to shift the narrative. It's the opportunity to shift it. I- Get rid of the books that tell the truth. Ban the books that tell the truth. Get rid of the people who do the jobs that deal with these truths, and then let's shift it to something totally different. That's how the propaganda comes in and then gets implemented. So now we'll have, generations of young people who don't know the truth, who don't know. And I just hope that our wonderful librarians, who I think are amazing and incredible people, um, hold on, and our educators hold on to truths and share them, and we continue to just tell the truth. Just like I love the fact that you enjoy research and I don't.
I would not say enjoy. Enjoy is not the word. I enjoy learning, but I do
Yeah.
not enjoy research.
Yeah, that's me. I enjoy learning, but I don't enjoy doing the footwork. But I'll read it, I'll study it, and then okay, I've learned it. Now I can expound on it. But I don't want to just go down every single rabbit hole. That's the thing for me. I just don't want to explore every single solitary rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa's not here today, so we have no peace. But what is your call to action for the culture?
Why don't you go first?
Okay, I'll go first. I think my call to action is not necessarily directed at the culture. I think it's more anybody. And I'm speaking to myself too because I made this mistake. But uh, when you do something that offends people, don't double down on your offense. I think you should listen. I think you should, like, in that politician's case, I felt like he should have listened to people talking back at him. He should have gone and done the research himself and tried to have an understanding of why people would be offended at blackface and then issue a genuine apology. But the onus is on you to do that research and figure out why that was offensive if people think it's offensive. So that's what I'm calling people to do.
I love that. So my call to action is for people to once again just continue to be your authentic self and love and enjoy the skin you're in and develop a sense of humor about your existence. I think we have a sense of humor about our existence. Humor has gotten us over so many times. Humor has gotten us through the way we celebrate, the way we live, the way we love has gotten us through. And so tap into the things for our culture that get us through so that no matter how the narrative shifts, we could still exist the way we've always existed as strong, resilient survivors who connect to one another and we link arms to go through everything so that we don't have to be accused of something, pulling the race card or whatever. Yeah, you call it out when it needs to be called out. You speak it when it needs to be spoken. But there is not one thing that shows we've ever laid down and just cried about anything. We always overcome. It's not about we shall, we will continue to. And so that's my call to action.
Yeah, make me sing. We shall overcome. But anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, click that plus in Apple Podcast or that subscribe button in YouTube to make sure that you keep getting them. We love to hear what you love about the show. We like to hear your opinions. So let us know in the comments. We do respond. Until we meet again.
Kings and queens, keep doing big things.
All right. We'll see y'all.